Let's go to Chad. Hello, Chad. You are up, sir.
Hey, Bark.
And is this from Boston Harbor Encore as well?
No, this is from
Okay.
Thunder Valley
Okay.
in California.
Yep. Thunder Valley, Sacramento, right?
Yep,
Yep.
yep, correct.
SMF territory. I was going back and forth
Yeah,
on Discord with somebody who plays out of Stones. And when I lived in LA, I mean, I took that Burbank to SMF flight like 30 times. I was up in Sacramento a ton. I used to go up there every single month before the Apostle thing.
I literally live like a 2-minute walk to Stones, but I tend to play at Thunder Valley quite a bit. So
Yeah, I played on Thunder Valley on Poker Night in America, actually. Shamoth Palihapitiya, when he made quads against me, that was from Thunder Valley. Okay, and what game are you playing here? What size?
1-3, so it's 100 and 400 is the buy-in. 8-handed, but one is up, so we're currently playing 7-handed. And I'm the effective stack at 825. Some background, the Villian and I, we kind of opened the table. So we've been playing for, 8-9 hours together. And this kind of brought up the situation. We've been chopping like 3 or 4 times throughout the day. And so when it folded to me, I'm in the small blind. When it folded to me, I was getting ready to muck my cards, to grab my blind back. And the big blind all of a sudden said no chop.
But you had been chopping.
Correct. We have been chopping all day, like maybe 3 or 4 times. And then, so I just assumed, I didn't look at my cards. So I just assumed you were going to chop, but he looked at me and said, no chop.
Okay.
So I was like, okay. So, I was just kind of like, it kind of threw me there for a minute. So I didn't look at my cards. I looked back and I have 2 red queens.
Oh boy, here we go. So folded to hero in small blind with 2 red queens. Haven't even looked at your hand, fully expecting to chop. And now he says no chop, and now you look at 2 queens. Okay, well,
Yeah,
I would probably still straight raise, to be honest with you.
I did.
Okay, what'd you do?
I did. I was sitting there thinking, I was like, there's no way I'm going to, just limp or fold queens in a, small blind, big blind spot. So I just raised it to 10, which is about what 10 to 12 was kind of what people were raising to at the table. So I went to 10 and then he raised it to 100.
Wow. Okay. To 100.
Yeah. Then he said, just fold, just fold, just fold. I got it. Just fold. And I was like, he's not going to really do this with like, because in the few times we've chopped, he showed me he had like 6s and 7s and just threw it away.
Mm-hmm.
So to me, this is kind of like, either aces or kings, but most likely aces.
Well, I mean, if you really think it's always that strong, then you could just fold, right? You're not deep enough to set mine, but I think queens are a little bit. I mean, who's to say that he doesn't have like jacks or 10s or ace king here? I mean, I would call and play post.
Yeah, that's what I did. I thought about it. I was like, there could be a chance, he could have jacks or 10s, but, I was like, yeah, all right, I'm just going to call. And if it's a bad flop, I can just fold and, we can go on to the next one.
Right.
But
and then you sort of judge like based upon his sizing and the texture and all that. Okay. So I see you call.
I call, correct. And there's actually an above average flop. We got 9, 10, jack, all hearts.
Jack of hearts, 10 of hearts, 9 of hearts on the flop. You've got queens with a queen of hearts.
Correct.
Oh my goodness. Okay.
And so I was like, I wasn't sure, if I should bet or check. So it took me a minute. I kind of sat there and tanked for a little, thinking about, what I should do. And I just decided to check.
Mm-hmm.
And Villian jammed all in.
For how much?
725-ish.
So 725 into 200.
Into what the rake probably like 190 something, 194, whatever it was. But I had $200.
So the pot is 925 and it's 725 for you to call, basically.
Yes.
So you're getting not great pot odds. You'd probably need something like 45% equity to call. And here's the thing, like, I'm not 100% sure. I mean, I would think about this, like, obviously at the time about what my equity is here in this, in a given situation. But I could see him possibly doing this with other hands besides pairs. And that would be like ace king, right? With the ace of hearts, maybe ace king with the king of hearts. Now, the best case scenario, if it's not ace king, right, that he has, would be like black aces. Kings would be worse for you, right, because it cuts down on some of your open-ended outs here. So if you were up against black aces here, I mean, you would have what, 9 hard outs, another 6 open-ended outs, and then maybe 2 outs to a queen. You'd actually probably be a small favorite against black aces. Against black kings, maybe you're flipping. But the problem is that if he has something that's red and higher than you in the form of a pair, that's really where you're getting really, really crushed here. So, I mean, you could just run this through like an equity calculator. Now, if he's got like ace king with the ace of hearts here, you're doing, obviously fine against that because you've got 2 of the queens and you block some of the hearts. You're probably a small favorite against that. So, would it be like, black kings? If he's got black kings here, because the other thing too that I would say is that I don't know if like a guy would just jam kings with the king of hearts or aces with the ace of hearts. That's a huge, huge jam. It almost seems like a protectionist type of bet, like with black aces or some sort of gigantic draw. So with black kings, you'd have 9 heart outs, and then you would have what? 1 out to the king and then 3. So it'd be like 13, but your queens wouldn't be good. Maybe like a slight dog. I think it's probably pretty close. It's one of these things. Thunder Valley is what, like is it a match the stack or what?
No, it's not match the stack. Stones is Thunder Valley is just 400. It's the max buy-in.
Okay, because I do talk about how when I play capped games, I sometimes will take slightly, not overboard, the worst of it to get more money on the table, although you guys are quite deep anyways, right? And what I mean by that is that like if I lose, I know I'm going to buy back in for the full amount. And if I win, I have more money on the table and that helps me, obviously with my image. The other thing too is that sometimes, again, we're talking about a couple of percentages. Sometimes I know personally that I can take the beat a lot better. Like, if I get it in with a flip and I lose, it's not going to affect me, but it might affect somebody else a lot worse and they might go on towards tilting. This is just kind of a very sort of unique situation that you don't get involved with that much in Hold'em where you're just not, I mean, it's almost like he's almost betting almost like it's a dry side pot, right? You're almost getting almost 1-to-1. Like you probably need 46 or 47% equity. So either way, it's pretty close. Now, I think what would be more interesting here is what if he had started with like a more standard bet, like you checked and he bet 75 or he bet 125. Would you have like check jammed on him?
Well, I was thinking about that. If I call 125, that's going to, and it's going to put in an awkward stack situation. It's pretty much, I'm just going to have to bet it all in on the turn. Even if it comes like what it comes a deuce, am I just going to check fold? So like I always kind of thought like a few bets, like let's say 100, 125, that's going to leave me like $500 give or take, right?
I think for me personally, I would lean towards a call for the reasons that I stated, that the only times that you are absolutely dead here is if he's got, and you're not dead, but you're doing very badly, is if he has aces or kings with a heart in it. And this type of jam doesn't suggest that to me. It suggests one of 2 types of hands, the ace king with the ace of hearts or black aces or black kings. If you sort of run that through, you're probably flipping. And but it's very, very close. So if you wanted to say to me, well, maybe I didn't have another buy-in or I didn't want to gamble in this particular spot. It's not, I don't think it's a slam dunk either way, to be honest with you.
Well, what happened was I tanked for a little bit and, I was kind of looking at him and talking, like I was just making talk like, hey man, we've been chopping and all of a sudden you do this $100, just kind of getting a feel of what he had. And he was like, I'll show you a card. And I was like, oh, okay. And he didn't even look. He's like, just pick a card. And so I just picked that one and he just flipped over and it was the ace of clubs. And so to me, I'm like, if he has...
Well, then it's a slam dunk call.
Yeah. If he has an ace of clubs and ace of hearts, I think you would like look back to make sure you're not turning over the ace of hearts, in my opinion. So I looked at that and I was like, once I saw the ace of clubs, I was just like, well, all right, I call. And of course he had black aces and I bricked out. So it didn't come in, but I was told him, I was like, man, we've been chopping. And then all of a sudden you didn't want to chop. And that just kind of like threw me for a loop that, we've been chopping all day. And all of a sudden he doesn't want to chop.
Well, it's one of these things where it's definitely, I guess you could say like it's in poor form, but it comes around. I mean, it's not a rare type of situation. What I would say is that, yeah, his hand usually leans towards being very, very strong. If all of a sudden he says, I don't chop. By the way, I picked up aces in the big blind this week and we chopped. I hadn't even looked at it. Guy chopped and I turned them. I looked at my hand. It was aces. I giggled about it. Sometimes that puts people on tilt when they pick up aces and then they get, they chop. I just think that the hand itself is kind of interesting. Now, if you had black aces here, I'm pretty sure, I mean, people in the live chat can help me out, but I think you're probably 52-48 off the top of my head. I don't know if you looked at it in an equity calculator. Of course, you got to look at a range of hands, but
yeah, my range was pretty much aces, kings, and ace king with the ace of hearts after the flop. So, I kind of was hoping that he had black aces. I didn't really want to see kings. So once he flipped over the black ace, I was just like, yeah, okay, I'm just going to call. And I'm a rec, so like I said, it doesn't matter. If I lose a buy-in or two, I'm just playing for fun. So, I'm not going to be stressing about it. But just the chopping thing, that reminded me about that since you put that video out a couple weeks ago about it.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely in poor form, right? It's definitely in poor form. But if there's no flop, though, did they take any money at all?
No.
Oh, they don't. Okay, that's better. Well, then he gets your dollar because in Southern California they actually take a modified drop anyways. But
yeah,
interesting one. But I hope that didn't like ruin your session. Just walk it off, as I say.
Yeah, I did. I just walked it off and just came back. But I just thought it was kind of, I don't know, poor form that we were chopping, and all of a sudden he just didn't do that. So
yeah, it's definitely Bush, Chad, for sure. But don't let it ruin your day.
I won't. Thanks.
All right. Thanks a lot.